Everyone, I'm Ankit and you're watching the Indian Express analysis by StudyIQ IS English channel. Now today is 10th of February and we'll be covering six important articles from our today's discussion. Now I hope you had a very great and eventful weekend. So let us start our today's discussion. I'm happy to tell you that all the pending articles for last week onwards have been dealt with until the session on Saturday. So we'll be covering fresh articles from today's newspaper itself. Now, first article states that the precedent rule, it is expected to be implemented in the state of Manipur, especially because the Chief Minister of Manipur, he resigned yesterday. Now, such precedent rule and its important provision, which is given under Article 356 of the Indian Constitution, it becomes important from which syllabus? From polity syllabus. So we'll be covering it as it is also important from GS paper 2 perspective. Then we'll be following up with the National Tiger Conservation Authority, as this authority has expressed concerns over the submergence of a tiger corridor between two important tiger reserves in the country, that are Satpura as well as Melghat Tiger Reserve, which are located in Madhya Pradesh as well as Maharashtra respectively. So we'll be covering this one article, and this tells us about three different topics that we'll be covering today. First is National Tiger Conservation Authority. What are its roles and responsibilities? In addition to understanding details about Satpura and Melghat Tiger Reserves, which are located in Madhya Pradesh and in Maharashtra. So these kind of articles are important from GS paper 3 perspective, as it deals with relation to environment, which is a form of protected area. Then we'll be covering about fifth generation fighter planes in Aero India, as two fifth generation fighter planes, that is Su-57 of Russia as well as F-35 of US, have appeared in this particular event which is going to happen in India, and this is the first time when both of these planes are photographed together. So this photograph which I'll be showing you, it highlights Indian foreign policy in general, that how it successfully navigates between two different powers, Russia as well as US. So we'll be understanding the various technological advancements that are there in fifth generation fighter aircrafts, and how are these an improved version of aircrafts as existing current Indian aircrafts. Understood? So this is important from GS paper 3 perspective, mainly because of science and technology, as how technology has favored advanced development of fighter planes in the world. Then we'll be following up with the foreign direct investments, as the government of India, it is looking to make changes in its procedure as well as policy so as to favor more foreign direct investments in India. So we'll be understanding the basics of how FDI, or what constitutes FDI, and how such policy is implemented in India. That is, what are the steps of approval that is required before the foreign direct investment happens in India. Now give me a minute. Yes, so this is important from GS paper 3 perspective, particularly the polity, particularly the economy syllabus. Understood? Then we'll be understanding states' right to acquire private property, as this was in news because the US government has expressed concerns over the South Africa's new right to acquire the private property and how it denies the concerns of local people in general. Now, the controversy relating to US and South Africa, it is not important for our exam. But what is important, that what is the provision related to acquiring of private property in India, which is a part of GS paper 2 syllabus. Earlier it was also a part of fundamental right, now it has been removed. So we'll understand this context particularly in respect of India's. Understood? So this is how we'll be discussing our today's article from various perspectives. Primarily it deals with four subjects: economy, polity, environment as well as science and technology. Now, as usual, the notes for this session will be available on my Telegram channel called as ATS Live. So after this session ends, please search for ATS Live, subscribe to the channel, and if you're still not able to find the channel, you always have an option to scan this particular QR code. Now, yesterday I uploaded an important reel on my Instagram handle which describes the use and why is actually the gold so popular in India. So please watch this reel, as it is very important as far as UPSC is concerned, and also very important if you want to become an informed citizen. Understood? My Instagram handle is ANKTSNGH, or you can also scan the QR code for the same. Now moving to the yesterday's question that I had given you before the session ended, consider the following statement regarding Dibru-Saikhowa National Park. Now Dibru-Saikhowa National Park is located in state of Arunachal Pradesh and is known for its rich biodiversity. It is actually known for its rich biodiversity. However, it is located in the state of Assam, as it is one of the 7 national parks located in the state of Assam. This is located very close to Arunachal border, especially in the eastern part of Assam. So first statement becomes incorrect, as it is located in Assam and not in Arunachal Pradesh. The second statement, it is home to rare species like white-winged wood duck. As I told you, this is actually a home of this rare species. So second statement becomes correct. The park is primarily a riverine wetland ecosystem formed by Brahmaputra and its tributaries. I told you the river which drains or which is a significant drainage of this area is Brahmaputra river. So it is known as a riverland as well as also a wetland based national park, and therefore third statement becomes correct. Second was right, first was not. We have to identify correct statement. Second and third, option B here is the right answer. Now let us move to the first article of the day. This article actually appeared in the page 7 of the Indian Express newspaper, and it states that the precedent rule, it is likely to be implemented in Manipur because the current chief minister of Manipur, Mr. Biren Singh, he resigned yesterday. Now whenever there is a resignation of the existing chief minister, there are multiple options. First of all, there should be a new leader of the house who should emerge and claim to form the government, or if that cannot happen, unless a new session is formed, there exists a provision for precedent rule. So you'll be understanding what is actually the precedent rule. Now let us understand the important constitutional provisions which provide for precedent rule in India. It is actually a emergency situation which happens due to failure of constitutional machinery in the state, and it is given under Article 356 of the Indian Constitution. It is popularly known as the term called precedent rule. Now it is also known as a term called state emergency or constitutional emergency, but you have to understand that in Article 356 or its related Article 365, the constitution does not use the word emergency. However, it uses emergency only in the cases of national emergency. Understood? So therefore, the most popular term for this particular provision is called as precedence rule. Understood? Now, the precedent rule, they are implemented under two different provisions of the constitution. First is Article 356, which empowers the president to issue the proclamation that a following state is under a precedent rule. And when does actually president declare a state under precedent rule? Because there may be a situation in the state that according to the governor of the state, the government of the state cannot be carried according to the provisions of the constitution. So based on the report of governor, the president may or may not declare that state under the provision of precedent rule. Also, there is another provision called as Article 365. Here, there are many areas in which the center gives directions to the state government. For example, parts related to railway, communication, etc., which are under the exclusive powers of united or the union government. Now, if the states do not follow these directions, for example, for communication related purposes or for railway related purposes, there is a provision under Article 365 that the state is failing to comply to give any effect of the union government to give any direction, and because of that the president can actually hold that there is a situation in the state that the state government cannot work in accordance to the constitution. So in under this provision also, this state can be put under the precedent rule. Understood? So you have to understand there are two important provisions. First is 356. Based on the report of governor, president can actually infer that the state cannot function under the provisions of constitution and hence apply precedent rule. Whereas Article 365, it provides or it gives powers to the union government to give directions to the state government for several purposes like communication as well as railways, which are under exclusive power of union government. And if state does not follow that direction, then also the president can impose precedent rule. Understood? Now, let us understand what is the process of getting parliamentary approval and the duration till which the precedent rule can be applied. First is such a proclamation by the president has to be approved by both of the houses of parliament within the 2 months from the date of its issue. Now, there may be a case that the houses might not be functioning for the period of 2 months, then it can do so until 2 months from the date it has been coming into session. Then if approved by both of the houses, the precedent rule, it does not continue indefinitely, but it only continues till 6 months. And after every 6 months, the union government must take approval of parliament again and again. And this process of 6 months duration of precedent, it can continue until a maximum period of 3 years. So you can understand it can go on at once for 6 months and it can be approved maximum of 6 times, that is sum total of 3 years. And provided that the parliament is giving approval every 6 months. Understood? So the duration of precedent rule is not indefinite. It can be approved once only for 6 months and then it can continue for a maximum of 3 years if the president or if the parliament gives approval periodically. Now, approving of resolution in the parliament or its continuation, it needs to be done by both of the houses of parliament by a simple majority. That is more than 50% of members present and voting. Understood? So this is the process through which the government takes approval of the house. Both of the houses need to give approval, and after approval this provision continues for max 6 months, and after 6 months the government again has to seek approval, and this can go on up till a period of maximum 3 years. Understood? Now let us understand the process of how this process of approval and how it has changed since the time the constitution was enacted. Now earlier the process of precedent rule, it was approved once and it continued throughout. However, there were certain limitations that were made by the 44th Amendment Act of the Indian Constitution, which was passed in 1978. Now, beyond 1 year, the precedent rule can be extended by 6 months only at a time if there are 2 conditions that are fulfilled. First, that if there is a national emergency which is in operation in the country, then only you can get precedent rule approved beyond the part of 1 year. And also, if the election commission, it has certified that the general elections of the assembly in that particular state, it cannot be taken care of, then only the union government can extend the precedent rule beyond the period of 1 year. So theoretically, it is possible that it can continue till 3 years. But after 1 year, there are 2 conditions that need to be fulfilled. First is that the national emergency is continuing in India. And the second part is that the election commission must certify that it cannot hold the elections in that particular state. Then only the government can continue precedent rule beyond the part of 1 year. Understood? I hope everything is clear. Good morning, Baga. Good morning, Tony. Good morning, Yashi. Now let us try to understand what is the consequence of precedent rule on the governance of state and union government. Understood? Now, when president proclaims that there is a precedence rule in a particular state, then the state council of ministers is dismissed. So, after precedent rule, the state council of ministers, which is headed by chief minister, it ceases to exist. And what about the state legislative assembly? State legislative assembly is put or it's suspended temporarily. However, after a certain period of time, if the government decides so and there is no possibility of forming the government in the state, then it can be dissolved also. However, the provision of dissolve can only happen after the parliament gives approval to the state emergency or the precedent rule. Understood? So this is what happens to the state legislative assembly, whereas the state council of ministers, it is dismissed by the president. Whereas the state governor, he becomes the new in charge of the state government and he carries on the state administration on the behalf of president with the help of various bureaucrats like chief secretary of the state. Also, if the advisor or any advisor is appointed by the president, they help the governor to run the administration of state government. Understood? Now, what about passing of new laws for that state? The responsibility of passing of new laws for that state which is under precedent rule, it goes to the Parliament of India. Hence, Parliament, it passes state legislative bills and also the state budget. And any law which is passed by the Parliament, especially when the President rule is in application, it continues doing so even after the President rule is removed from the state. Understood? So, in terms of governance, state governor becomes the head of state administration and he discharges the duty of state government on behalf of President, and he is supported actively by bureaucrats and advisors appointed by the President. Whereas the state legislative assembly, it is first put into a suspended animation, and then after this rule is approved, it is then dissolved by the President of India. Whereas the passage of laws for that particular state is concerned, it is done by the Parliament of India, which not just passes bills but also passes the state budget. And the laws which are passed by Parliament during the time President rule is in application, it continues to remain so even after the President rule is removed from the state. Understood? Now, let us try to solve the practice question, and this practice question is also a PYQ which appeared in the prelims examination in 2018. Now, if President of India exercises his power as provided under Article 356 of the Constitution in respect to a particular state, then which of the following happens? The assembly of the state is automatically dissolved. I told you no, it actually is suspended earlier, and only after the Parliament of India approves the President rule, then only it is dissolved. So you cannot say it is dissolved automatically, rather it is first suspended, then only it is dissolved. So first A is incorrect. Article 19 is suspended in the state. Article 19 is actually freedom of speech and expression. This is not suspended in a state, it is only suspended in the times of national emergency. And this is what? Is it national emergency? No, it is state emergency. So third statement incorrect. The President can make laws relating to that state. Incorrect. It is actually Parliament of India that makes laws for the particular state. So the correct answer is option B, as the power of legislature of that state shall be exercised by or under the authority of Parliament. It is the right answer to this practice question, which is also a PYQ. Now let us move to another article. This one article appeared on page 8 of the Indian Express newspaper, and it states that the National Tiger Conservation Authority, or NTCA, it is actually expressing concerns over the submergence of a tiger corridor which exists between Satpura Tiger Reserve as well as the other tiger reserve called as sorry, I'm forgetting the name, pardon my ignorance. So this two protected area which provides for a corridor in between that allows the tiger to navigate between these two tiger reserves, it is going to be submerged by a new dam project. Now tigers are present in large number in Madhya Pradesh, as Madhya Pradesh, it is India's largest state in terms of area. Also, sorry, not largest state, but MP, it houses the largest amount of tigers in India. So therefore, protection of tigers, especially in the state of Madhya Pradesh, is a big cause of concern. Now there is a actually a project which is developed for irrigation purposes called as Moran Ganjal irrigation project in Madhya Pradesh, and it is expected that this irrigation project will submerge a part of land which constitutes a corridor between Melghat Tiger Reserve, the name that I was forgetting, as well as Satpura Tiger Reserve. So these two tiger reserves and the area between them, which is provided by a tiger corridor, it will be submerged, and this is the cause of concern which is expressed by the National Tiger Conservation Authority. So from this news perspective, three types of information becomes important for us. What is National Tiger Conservation Authority? What are its objective, roles and responsibilities, and details about these two tiger reserves, Satpura as well as Melghat Tiger Reserve. Understood? Now let us try to understand some of the details regarding the National Tiger Conservation Authority. Now National Tiger Conservation Authority, it is actually a statutory body, which means it is made or it was established based on a law passed by the Indian Parliament, and this comes under the administrative control of Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Now it was established as per a law of the Indian Parliament, that was Wildlife Protection Act 1972. Now the composition of NTCA, the chairman of NTCA is actually the minister in charge of Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, whereas the Minister of State it acts as the vice chairperson of NTCA, whereas the NTCA it also consists of 3 members of Indian Parliament as well as Secretary of MOEFCCC as well as other members who are nominated by which government? Who are nominated by Union government. Now, what is the roles and responsibility of the NTCA? First, it is a statutory authority for Project Tiger as it monitors the compliance and implementation of Project Tiger, and this Project Tiger was actually meant to preserve and protect the population of tigers in India. As you understand, over the world, India has the largest population of tigers, and this being a keystone species, therefore you need to protect these tigers, and for that a special mission was created called as Project Tiger, which falls under the exclusive jurisdiction of NTCA. Now this fosters accountability of center-state relation, because you understand not just central government alone can protect tigers, but also you need cooperatives or cooperation of the state governments, and for that the coordination between central and state government, it is based or it is monitored by the NTCA, as it provides for various memorandum of understanding which the state government signs with the NTCA. Now this also provides for oversight by the parliament, as the reports of the NTCA it is considered by the parliament, and it holds both state and central government accountable of whether or not they are protecting the tigers or not. Further, it addresses the livelihood interest of the local people, because you understand, while establishing the protected area for tigers, you are restricting the movement of local people. So local people who are dependent on forest and its resources to meet their livelihood needs, you also need to take care of that, and this is taken care of by none other than the NTCA. Understood? So these are the roles and responsibility of NTCA. Now I was telling you about the concerns that was expressed by NTCA, that there are 2 tiger reserves, Melghat Tiger Reserve located in Maharashtra and the Satpura Tiger Reserve located in the state of Madhya Pradesh. Now between these 2 tiger reserves, there are 2 corridors which allows the tigers to move freely between these 2 protected areas. These are these 2 corridors. Now it is expected that the new project or the new irrigation project, it will submerge the part of land which falls under these boxes, right? So you understand, it directly affects the nature of the corridor, as when the water is submerged, it won't allow the tigers to transverse between these 2 protected areas. Understood? So let us try to understand first of all both these tiger reserves, and let us start with the Satpura Tiger Reserve. Now Satpura Tiger Reserve, it is located in the Hoshangabad district of Madhya Pradesh, and this is located south of the river Narmada. So the location is actually Madhya Pradesh, and in terms of the location with respect to Narmada river, it is south of Narmada river. Now Satpura basically means 7 folds, and it forms a watershed between 2 rivers, Narmada and Tapti. So this protected area is located between Narmada in the north and Tapti in the south. So area between them actually houses the Satpura Tiger Reserve. Now it is habitat also important, a testimony of human evolution, as it does not consist of a population of tigers, but it also houses more than 50 rock shelters which are almost 1500 to 10,000 year old. So in terms of preserving our cultural lineage also, this area becomes very important. Understood? Now in terms of vegetation, this protected area consists primarily of tropical moist deciduous forest as well as dry deciduous forest, in addition to some areas having moist grassland type vegetation. Whereas in terms of flora that exist in the area, it consists of central highlands, and these include teak, bamboo, Indian ebony and various wild mangoes and gooseberry species. Now Satpura Tiger Reserve, it is also known as the northern extremity of Western Ghats. So the grassland and vegetation which you will find in Western Ghats, they are also present in Satpura Tiger Reserve. Understood? So this is a very important topic that you have to realize, that Western Ghats is located even until the Satpura Tiger Reserve. Now in terms of animals or species which inhabit this area, it consists not just of Bengal tigers, but also it has a heavy population of Indian bisons and Indian giant squirrel, and in this Indian bisons they provide actually the food for these Bengal tigers. Now other mammalian species, it includes predators like Indian leopard, wild dogs as well as sloth bears. Understood? So please keep these facts in mind, that you already know this is a tiger reserve. So it will be having the population of tigers, but it also has other predators like Indian leopard, in addition to Indian bisons, Indian giant squirrel, which are important species as far as this protected area is concerned. Now let us try to understand Melghat Tiger Reserve, right? Melghat Tiger Reserve is actually not located in Madhya Pradesh, rather it is located in the Amravati district of Maharashtra, and it is located on the southern offshoot of the Satpura hill range, and it is also known as Gavilgad Hill. So please make sure to remember this kind of terms, as it can be asked in a question and you are required to identify which particular protected area will this question be talking about. So if it mentions this particular protected area located on Gavilgad Hill, you know it is the Melghat Tiger Reserve we are talking about. Now it was first established as a wildlife sanctuary in 1967, and then it was given the status of a national park or a tiger reserve in 1964, and it was the first tiger reserve in Maharashtra. So please pay attention to such facts. Now it was among the first of 9 tiger reserves which was constituted under Project Tiger, therefore it is a very important tiger reserve. Now in terms of its location, first of all let us understand the meaning of the name Melghat. It means confluence of various ghats or valleys. Now it typically forms a landscape of this tiger reserve. The vegetation of this area, it's dominated by tropical deciduous forest, and in terms of species of the trees that are available, it is dominated by the teak, which is an important wooden tree which provides raw material for various kind of furnitures that are in high demand. And the rivers which drain this area, it constitutes, or it is located in the catchment area of 5 major rivers. These are Khandu, Khapra, Sipna, Gadga, Dollar. All of them are tributaries of Tapti. I told you, right, Satpura Tiger Reserve, it is located in an area between Narmada as well as Tapti, whereas this Melghat Tiger Reserve, it is drained by tributaries of which river? Of the same Tapti river. Understood? Now this Melghat Tiger Reserves also consist a significant population of tribes which are located in the area. These are Korkus tribe, which are the largest tribal communities in Melghat, and other tribes that includes Gavli community, Gond tribe, as well as other smaller tribal parts. In terms of fauna or in terms of animal which inhabit this area, apart from tigers, it consists of significant population of sloth bear, Indian gaur, sambar deer, as well as other predators known as leopard, and also nilgai, dhol, hyenas, jungle cat, etc. Now these Indian gaur, Sambal tiger as well as nilgai, they also provide food for which species? For the keystone species that are Bengal tiger. Now this protected area, it is considered as a stronghold of a critically endangered forest owlet. So please remember such other important species also. As I told you, white-winged duck was located in Dibru-Saikhowa National Park. The forest owlet, which is a critically endangered species, it is located in the Melghat Tiger Reserve. Understood? Now let us try to solve this practice question with reference to Melghat Tiger Reserve. Consider the following statement. It is located in Satpura range of Madhya Pradesh. Incorrect, I told you. It is located in the state of Maharashtra. It is one of the first 9 tiger reserve established under Project Tiger in 1973. A correct statement. The reserve is known for its dry deciduous forest and is home to species like Indian gaur and sloth bear. Yes, correct. I told you these two species, they provide as a food for the tiger which are located in the particular tiger reserve. We have to identify correct statement. Second and third is right again. Therefore, option B here is the right answer. 1973 Project Tiger, right sir? Sir, can't see the last bit of your slide. I don't understand which last bit are you talking about. Can you be more specific, Baga? I guess you're talking about the lower side of the slide, right? Don't worry, I'll be uploading the notes in the comment section or in the Telegram channel also. So if you have any problem, you can refer to it after the session ends. Now let us talk about the next article. This article actually talks about that the Aero India show, it will begin in the city of Bengaluru. However, the important part of this Aero Defense show is that 2 5th generation fighter planes of adversarial nations, US and Russia, they will be taking part in this particular show. That is why such kind of a show is in news. Now, if you see from this picture on my right, there is a Su-57, which is a 5th generation aircraft developed by Russia. On my left, There is this F-35, which is in active service of the United States Air Force as well as Navy. So these two are the examples of fifth generation fighter aircrafts. Now in terms of fighter aircrafts, generation is used to denote the time when this fighter jet was developed and also its level of technological competence. So by understanding or segregating fighter planes into various generation, we have an idea of its technological and its capabilities. Understood? Now let us try to understand the various important features of the fifth generation fighter aircrafts. First of all, these are the currently most advanced fighter jets which are in operation, and the most important feature of these type of aircrafts is that it fully embraces the concept of stealth, which means on radar these kind of fighter aircrafts, they do not appear as fighter aircrafts, rather a very small kind of a flying objects like birds, etc. So if these kind of fighter aircrafts were to get into an enemy territory, they won't be able to find these aircrafts. So this is what stealth is all about, that it hides actually the fact that these aircrafts or their radar signature is very low. Also, there are many computers and onboard software which automatically allows many of the functions of these fighter jets not to be driven by pilot, rather it can function automatically also. One of the most important feature also is that with the use of technology, these kind of fighter aircraft, they get complete picture of battle space. And how is it that possible? That these aircraft, they have a capability of networking with each other. So for example, there are two fighter aircrafts following together and one is flying at a higher altitude, another one is at a lower altitude. So these two aircrafts, they can actually talk to each other, say therefore they can understand the entire 360-degree overview of the battlefield, which provides them with the complete picture. Understood? So therefore their ability to navigate in the enemy territories and find out any adversarial flying objects is also very high as compared to the current generation aircrafts. Now in terms of operation, only 3 countries are operating the 5th generation fighter aircrafts. These are US, which has 2 5th generation fighter aircrafts, F-22, F-35. Russia has Sukhoi Su-57, whereas China has J-20. And these are the operational 5th generation aircraft. Now talking about India's aircraft, India has many good aircrafts, Rafale, MiG-29, Sukhoi 30 MKI, Tejas, etc. But all of these are 4th generation aircrafts. None of the Indian Air Force aircrafts, these are 5th generation. However, India, especially the HAL and DRDO, they are developing a 5th generation aircraft under the project called AMCA. However, this is currently not even reached the prototype stage. What is a prototype stage? That actually a fighter is being manufactured and that can fly, that is called as a prototype aircraft. And based on the test which is done on the prototype aircraft, you start manufacturing these aircrafts in mass numbers, right? So India, this currently is undertaking development under the AMCA project, but the aircraft has still not been developed and it is not even flying. Understood? So this is the technological level of Indian Air Force and whether or not it has the 5th generation aircraft. Now 5th generation aircraft, as I told you, has many features. First of it, the most important highlighted fact is that it embraces the concept of stealth, and also it has advanced computers and softwares which enables these aircrafts to talk to each other and gain the complete picture of battlefield. Therefore, they are much better placed in terms of tackling the enemy threats. Now let us also solve another PYQ. This appeared in the last prelims of the year 2024. It enumerates, consider the following aircrafts: Rafale, MiG-29, Tejas, Mark 1 aircraft, and which of the above are considered as 5th generation fighter aircraft. What did I tell you? These 3 are 4th and 4.5 generation aircrafts and not 5th generation aircraft. So all of these 3 are incorrect. Therefore option D, none, is the right answer to this PYQ. Sorry. Thank you, Yashi, for your compliment. It means a lot to me. Now, the ones who are watching this session right now, if you like this session, please do not forget to hit the thumbs up button there in your screens, and also please share this content with your friends so that they also know the hard work we are doing on a daily basis and our content reaches more people. Also, our session goes live every day at 10 a.m. So please subscribe to our channel so that you get notified every time such videos and other videos, they are going live on our channel. Understood? Now let us move to next article. This one appeared in the business page of the Indian Express newspaper, and it tells that government is looking to procedurally ease many of the regulations located or related to the foreign direct investment, so that the government increases the levels of foreign direct investment in the country. Now this article does not mention which of the sectors in which the government will relax the regulation, so we'll be keeping the tabs on such development in the future. But in the meantime, let us try to understand what is actually the foreign direct investment, or what are the regulations, or which kind of investments coming into India can be called as foreign direct investments. Understood? So let us first talk about the foreign direct investment. First, the definition of investment. Now, if any investment which is made in capital instruments like debt, equities, etc., if they were being made into India by a non-resident of India, and if it is made in an unlisted Indian company, or it constitutes more than 10% of the equity capital in a listed Indian company, then these two categories are what you call as a foreign direct investment. Understood? That first, it is made in an unlisted Indian company, or if it is made in a listed Indian company, then the amount of investment should be 10% or more than the equity value or the total value of the company. Understood? Now there are two routes based on which the FDI is allowed in India. First is called as automatic route. In such kind of an investments that qualify for automatic rule, it does not require any approval to be sought from the government. Whereas there are certain areas where the government says that FDI is allowed, however, we will give the approval first, and that is known as the government route. Now under it, prior to the investment, the approval from the government of India and the related department is necessary, and hence it is called as government route. And the proposals for this kind of an investment are actually considered by the respective ministry or the government department which concerns that particular kind of the work, right? So for example, if the approval were to be made or FDI were to be done in the automobile sector, then the Ministry of Heavy Industries will actually approve for the particular investment. Now let us understand the procedure of how the government approval is given. First of all, the application is filed on a portal called as Foreign Investment Facilitation Portal, and according to this investment application, the DPIT, which is the nodal department responsible for FDI in India, it allocates such application and gives it to a particular or related ministry or department. Now proposed investments from Pakistan and Bangladesh, they will also be requiring clearances for Ministry of Home Affairs, whereas it is also sent to RBI, which considers whether this qualifies for Foreign Exchange Management Act or not. So the concerned ministry or department it concerns the application, RBI also regulates or understands or studies the application, and if it is emerging from countries like Pakistan and Bangladesh, it would require clearances for Ministry of Home Affairs. Now proposals for FDI which constitutes more than 5,000 crore rupees or approximately $775 million, it needs to be placed before the Cabinet Committee of Economic Affairs also, in case it requires government approval. Understood? So automatic approval, no kind of automatic route, no kind of an approval from government is required, whereas if it is under the government route, then the following stages needs to be followed before the approval is given. Also, the final approval, once the proposal is completed with all respects, the final approval is given within the period of 8 to 10 weeks, that is 2 and 2.5 months. Understood? So first, the application of the government route under which the FDI is being made, it is filed on the portal called as Foreign Investment Facilitation Portal. Then the DPIT, it refers this application to the respective ministry, also to the RBI, and if it is emerging from Pakistan and Bangladesh, then to Ministry of Home Affairs also. And if this investment is more than 5,000 crore rupees, then the Cabinet Committee of Economic Affairs has to give its own permission. Following all this stage, the final approval is given, and the time taken for it is about 2 to 2.5 months. Understood? Now let us understand the sectors under which the FDI actually is prohibited. First of all, lottery businesses, gambling, betting, etc. in casinos, addition to chit funds, Nidhi companies also, here the FDI is prohibited. Real estate businesses and construction of farmhouses, also the FDI is not permitted. However, this does not include development of townships, construction of residential or commercial premises, or even construction of roads and bridges and RIT registered under the SEBI. These are exempted from such prohibition. Understood? Now, if manufacturing of cigars, cheroots, cigarettes, etc., and other tobacco products, these are also prohibited for FDI, and also activities in sectors which are not open to private sector investment at all. Here also the FDI prohibited. Now, earlier there were many sectors under which FDI has been prohibited. However, these have been now relaxed to only certain sectors such as atomic energy and its operation of atomic power plants, and also the railway operation. Understood? Now, let us solve the practice question with reference to foreign direct investment. Which of the following statement is incorrect? So, you have to identify incorrect statements of the four of the following statements. It is prohibited in sectors such as atomic energy, construction of farmhouses. I told you this is right, as certain sectors under which you cannot make FDI at all. These are atomic energy, these are construction of farmhouses, or manufacturing of cigarettes, etc., that you saw in the last slide. FDI under automatic route does not require any approval from the government of India. Yes, this is correct. That is why it is called as automatic rule. Whereas if you require government of India's approval, that it is called government route. The third statement, it is investment through capital instruments by person resident outside India in 10 or more percent of equity capital of a listed company in India. Yes, this is correct. Though incorrect question, which is actually the right answer to this question, is proposal of FDI under government route are considered by DPIIT. This is incorrect. These are considered by the respective ministry and departments under which that particular sector falls under, right? So, the correct answer to this question is option D, because we had to identify incorrect statement, right? Now, as I tell you every day, if you are not understanding the key important syllabus from the static portion of the UPSC preparation, you always have an option to register for courses that are available on the StudyIQ website. For example, we are providing you with the foundation level courses, which provides or which takes care completely of your levels of preparation. You will be provided with 18 books which constitute as a study material. You will be provided live classes where the teachers who are ultimate, they will be explaining you the key important concepts relating to every subject, and also you will be provided with doubt session and mentorship support to resolve any of your doubts. Further, you will be provided with test series for both prelims and mains, so that you inculcate the habit of practicing your learning, and this is provided under Sampoorn batch, which is available for both 2026 as well as 2027. For example, if you want to register for a 2026 course, it is available right now at 37,499. But let me tell you a way where you can get discounts even on this amount, which is actually quite a reasonable amount. Now, suppose you click on the buy now, click on the add promo code here. Now, enter ATS Live, the code which is flashing on your screens, on the bottom half of your screens right now. If you apply this code, see the value of the course falls from 37,499 to 29,999. Similarly, gold and silver are also available at a significant discount, and this is happening because of the code ATS Live, which is flashing on your screens right now. Understood? Now, believe me when I tell you, this kind of a arrangement, that is you enrolling into our foundation batch, it is a very beneficial course, as it helps you solve each and every doubt that might emerge, in addition to building the foundational concepts which you require to clear the exams, right? Also, I'm in the process of uploading important monthly current affairs video, which is provided in a separate playlist here. Click on the monthly current affairs. We have completed with December 2024, and I'll be starting to upload the 2025 January current affairs also in 1 day or 2 days. Understood? So please make sure to watch these videos, as it provides you the ability to revise important news developments for the past month. Understood? So let us move to our session again. Let us consider now the last article of the day. This one actually appeared in the today's explain section, which is on page 17 of the today's newspaper. Let's try. Your explanation are great, sir. Thank you. Let's try. Now, this last article of the day talks about the private property, or the concept of private property, and how or if the state, that is any government, can actually acquire your private property or not. Now, this article actually appeared in the newspaper because the United States Secretary of State, Mr. Marco Rubio, has actually said that he won't attend G20 summit, which is expected to happen in South Africa, just because of the fact that South African government has brought a new law to acquire private property known as Expropriation Act of 2024. Now, this act actually provides for a new procedure for the government of South Africa to acquire private property from landowners even without their consent if the acquiring of the property is done for a public purpose or in the public interest. Now, this kind of a controversy which is between US and South Africa, it is not important for our exam. What is important is actually the concept of acquiring private property and how it is applicable in India, right? So, we'll be discussing this article in the Indian context and understanding how such kind of a questions can be formed on similar concepts. Now, first let us get a brief background of the problem. Well, what are the origins of compulsory land acquisition? Now, although South Africa, United States as well as India, these are sovereign and independent nations. However, you have to understand their histories are unique. But despite of their unique history, their path to independence was very similar because these three countries, they were colonized, and because of that they have a common roots in the European colonization. So whatever laws that the European colonize actually implemented in these countries, they have actually influenced the laws which are even passed by the independent governments now in these countries. Now, one of these example of how colonial laws influenced the new laws which were passed by the independent countries. These are the examples of compulsory land acquisition and expropriation law, also known as the concept of eminent domain. So this concept of eminent domain, it was actually introduced by a scholar known as Hugo Grotius in the year 1625, and this concept of eminent domain, it highlights that the state actually is the owner of the property, right? So when state is the ultimate owner of the property, if it feels so that that particular land can be used for public interest or for providing public utility services, then the state can actually acquire this land from private owners in case it feels that it fulfills the public interest. So this is the concept of eminent domain. Now this concept, it actually traveled through the world through European colonizers, and in countries like India it has been implemented in one form or the other. For example, Land Acquisition Law or Land Acquisition Act of 1894, which was passed during the colonial rule in India. So the concept of eminent domain is that the ultimate owner of any property in the country is actually the state or the union or state governments, and if the governments, they actually feel that the land can be utilized for public purposes also, then they can forcefully acquire the land from the private owners. This is the concept of land acquisition. Now actually this ultimate or the eminent domain, which gave the ultimate right to the governments to procure the land, it was balanced by the changes which was made in the Constitution of United Kingdom, and this was done through the process of Magna Carta, which was actually a charter which was signed between some barons as well as King of England. Now this Magna Carta, it granted various kind of civil rights to the people of England, and in this right there was this landmark provision which followed or which meant that king also was a subject of the law of the land. So whatever king actually did after the passage of Magna Carta, it became subjected to the law and king was not above the law. Understood? So based on this particular charter, the citizens of United Kingdom, they were provided the right to hold property, and this property cannot be taken away from them except by any law which is passed by the Parliament of UK, or if they are provided with the compensation for this land. So this right to property although allowed the governments to procure the land, however they cannot do so without any law, or they cannot do so without giving them the adequate compensation. So this is how the right to procure any property was balanced by the right to owners of the property, right? Now, as I told you already, let us try to understand what are the procurement or what is the procedure of procuring such lands in India now. So let us discuss that. Now, this requirement of land to be acquired only through a due process of law actually influenced the property rights in many countries, including India. For example, after India got independent, it enacted a constitution of its own, which provided right to hold own property as a fundamental right under Article 19, which said that all the citizens in India, they have a right to acquire, hold and dispose of the property. So this was actually a fundamental right originally in the Indian Constitution. Also, Indian Constitution under Article 31, it stated that if any property could not be taken possession and if it is acquired for public purpose, then a law should be done which should actually provide for procurement of such property, and also the compensation for this procurement should actually be provided to the owner of the property. So the status of this right to property at the time when India got independent was actually that it was a fundamental right which was guaranteed under Article 19, and the Article 31, it provided that although state can acquire such property, it can do so only after it passes a law in the parliament, and also that it provides compensation to the owners of property. Understood? Now this actually changed after the 44th Amendment Act of 1978, that the right to property which was provided under fundamental rights originally, it was removed, and rather a new article, Article 300A, was introduced in the Constitution, which provided that no person shall be deprived of his property save the authority of the law. Understood? So this actually meant that earlier it was a fundamental right. Now the status of this right was changed, not from fundamental right, and it became a legal right of Indian citizens, right? And also this extend not to citizens of the country but also to all people in India, which also includes non-citizens, right? So therefore the status actually was degraded from fundamental right and now it became a legal right in Indian legal law. Now, how has actually the land acquisition process evolved in India? For example, several laws, they detail land acquisition provisions in specific cases. For example, if the construction of highway is being done, then the law such as NHAI Act, it provides for procurement of land. Similarly, for land procured for atomic energy needs and preservation of national monuments, all of this are dealt with separate laws. Now, over a century, especially when the colonial government was ruling us, the overall subject of land acquisition was governed by the Land Acquisition Act 1894. Now you understand this colonial government was actually an exploitative government. So naturally you can understand such kind of a provision under any law passed by the colonial government will not do justice to the people of India, right? So this law, it provided that government can actually acquire a land for public purpose in exchange for a compensation to this landowner. However, you have to understand such a law, it only took care for the compensation of landowner without concerning itself with the overall effect that it does to an overall society in that particular area. So this was actually rectified with a new law which was passed by independent Indian government, that is Right to Fair Compensation and Transparency in Land Acquisition, Rehabilitation and Resettlement Act of the 2013. This is also known as LAFRRR Act. Now this land acquisition which is done for industrialization and infrastructure, it seeks to establish actually a humane, participate and informed, transparent process for land acquisition. So naturally the government now does not or cannot procure the land on its own. Rather, first it has to consider its effect on society, it has to consider what the owners feel about it, it has to consider what the society feels about it, and only after it takes the consent of each and every person who are affected by such kind of land acquisition, then only the government can actually procure such land. And after doing so, it has to provide adequate compensation to the people, that is landowners of the land, and it also needs to undertake social impact assessment, that how the procurement of that land and the resultant development and industrialization can both in good and bad ways affect the people of that area. And after considering all this kind of an impact, both good and bad, then only the government can procure this land. Understood? So it takes into account that yours is a democratic country, so you cannot go and take away any kind of a land that you want. Rather, you have to enact a law, you have to consider the opinion of people and how these are affected, and also you have to provide them with adequate compensation. Also, according to the provisions of this act, the compensation which is provided in the urban area, if the land is procured from urban area, is 2 times the amount of market prices, whereas if the land is procured in rural area, it is provided, or the government provides 4 times the market price as the compensation to the landowners. Also, the rehabilitation and resettlement of people who was otherwise living in that particular land is also done through this particular act. Now, if you are not able to visit or see this last line, Please go to the slides which I upload in the Telegram channel. You will be able to see everything. Now, Baga Spinks, is there a difference between fundamental and legal right? Yes, actually there is. Good that you asked this question. Now, fundamental right is at a higher position, because if you're guaranteed a fundamental right, in case of the violation of fundamental right, you can go directly to the High Court and Supreme Court of the country. If you feel that your fundamental rights are violated, this is provided under Article 32 of the Constitution, right? Whereas if the legal right is violated, you only have an option to go to lower courts, and then only you can proceed to higher courts in the country. So in terms of protection, fundamental right is highly protected, whereas legal right is somewhat less protected. So the status of right to property is actually, that's why I said it was downgraded. Earlier it was a fundamental right, now it is just a legal right, which means lesser protection to the people affected by violation of such law. Understood? Now let us solve the practice question, which is also a PYQ of the year 2021. So you can see such kind of questions appear in the exam also, that you have to understand the basic concepts of such kind of a question. Now, what is the position of right to property in India? Anyone, if you want to answer this, please do so quickly. Is it a legal right available to citizens only? No. Is it a fundamental right available to citizens only? No, it was earlier, but after 44th Amendment Act of 1978, this was no longer a fundamental right. It is neither a fundamental right nor a legal right. Incorrect. It is actually a legal right which is available to any person in India. Therefore, option B is right. So technically, even if foreigners, they are owning a land, they'll be subjected to same provisions as the Indian citizens also under the right to acquire land and provision for compensation with it. No, Baga Spinks, actually it is no A, it is B, as it is available to any person, not just citizens, right? If it was fundamental right, then it was only provided to the citizens, because Constitution of India said so. Now, the notes for this session, as I tell you, it will be available on ATS Live, which is the Telegram channel, and you can also scan the QR code. Now, usually we take a mains question also in our everyday discussion, but today there were no such articles which provided for such information that can be put in an answer. So I skipped the mains question for today, but I'll be continuing if the article is so from tomorrow onwards. Now, this is the question for you to practice. I will be taking up this question tomorrow. So please make sure to answer this question in the comment section. Please do watch this session regularly, revise, read the important articles, and more importantly, write your answers. So I'll see you again at 10 a.m. sharp. Until then, have a great day and have